this is cliche too, but you have to get your ass kicked in order to have the good stuff. You have to. That's just the way it works. Trauma propels your story forward.
All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to What You Don't Hear. This is a life podcast, it's a story podcast, it's a bit of an open journal dive into people's lives as I sit and uncover the real story behind my guest's journey, finding out what makes them who they are, digging into the parts of their story that we normally wouldn't get to hear about. Now, I am your host. My name is Ross Tyson. I'm a freelancer of all kinds. I'm a creative director. I've been known to dabble as a filmmaker. I am a huge fan of comedy, which is fitting for today's episode. But of course, as you can tell, I'm a podcaster and someone who just, really enjoys talking to people. So as always with these intros as of late, I've got a guest and a fun conversation to introduce to you, but before we dive into that conversation, I've got some cool things to tell you about first because there's some people that are helping me keep this show afloat, and it still blows my mind that I even get to say it. I have not one, but two sponsors for this week's episode. So first, this episode is brought to you in part by Makers Social, a place that is located right here in the Franklinton Arts District where I happen to make this podcast. Now, if you're a longtime listener of the show, this might sound a little familiar because my friend and past guest here on the pod, Megan Pondo, actually runs this place, and it's seriously such a cool concept, and I heavily appreciate her for supporting this show. So let me tell you about it. What is it? Well, Makers Social is a DIY project bar where you can get your hands messy with some fun projects like woodworking, jewelry making, or even making your own real leather wallets. And they also host private events such as team building, corporate events, and even birthdays. Now, what's more interesting is they also have a full bar filled with cocktails, local beers, and a very rare bourbon list for you bourbon collectors out there. So honestly, what's more fun than getting your craft on with some friends while maybe getting your drink on as well for a night out? So right now, you can go and make a reservation on their website, and if you do, you can currently type in the code WYDH into the notes section when you make the reservation to get $10 off your project's booking. So head to makerscolumbus.com if you want to go check it out. For real, if you've never been, you should go, grab some friends, go make some fun projects with them, or at a bare minimum, just book some time to go in and just meet and talk to Megan because she's super cool and she's made a very cool place in Makers Social. So once more, to book a reservation, go to makerscolumbus.com, enter WYDH in the notes of your checkout for $10 off, and just go support some fun local things that are going down here in Franklinton. Now, this episode is also brought to you in part by PromoWest Productions. And you know the drill by now. I've got some more cool shows that you can go check out because talking about Columbus's music scene is one thing, but of course, experiencing it is entirely another. So if you're interested in catching a live show, you can check out one of these following upcoming concerts that are going down at Kemba Live via PromoWest. So on August 7th, they've got Dispatch and OAR. Then on August 8th, Andrew McMahon and Dashboard Confessional are coming through. Then another Andrew comes to town on August 9th as Andrew Bird and Iron and Wine. That is on August 9th. And finally, on August 23rd, Lav is coming through town. So to purchase tickets, you can visit axs.com, or as always, for more info on these or any other upcoming shows that are happening, you can find all that info at promowestlive.com. So let's dive into this week's episode. It's Monday. You know what that means. It means I've got a brand new story for you, and this one is honestly a very fun conversation with comedian and head of her own brand, BabeRoar. It's Christine Horvath on the show as I get to know her for the very first time. Now, we talk all things comedy, how she got her start, issues she's faced in the process, problems with the entertainment industries in general, and also why TikTok is the place to be and why people like me need to catch up on it. And of course, so much more, all right here in episode 63 of What You Don't Hear. But other than that, I think we are ready to make a podcast.
Let's do it.
Do you want to make this happen?
I think so.
Christine, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you for being down to do this.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
We do not know each other.
We don't.
At all.
No.
We met in passing, basically, when you were leaving the comedy show. Where was it?
The Old Oak.
Old Oak,
Yeah.
yes. Got introduced via a friend of the show, past guest, Shayna.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was pretty much just like a quick conversation of you going out the door, maybe like,
Yeah.
hey dude, rad set. And
Yeah.
you were like, thanks, nice to meet you. See you later. And then instantly I was like, I think I'm going to have her on the show. Like, I want to see if she's down to be on the show. And here we are.
Here we are.
So, I don't really know what all you do, honestly. Obviously, I just know you as stand-up comedian, right? And truthfully, like whenever I have guests on the show that I don't know, I really don't do a deep dive like investigation. I
Okay.
kind of want to save it for like, I find everything out real time
Yeah.
as we converse and as you share the story. So I know you as stand-up comedian, head of BabeRoar.
Yeah.
What all do you do? Is there more to it? Is that the like, hey, stand-up comedy is the thing, or what are you trying to turn BabeRoar into? I know that's a loaded question,
Yeah.
but lay it all out for me. Who is Christine?
I am a comedian. I'm a storyteller. I like to laugh. I like to make people laugh. So everything that I do is sort of like in that umbrella.
Okay.
So I don't know. It's really hard for me to be like, I am this thing because that encapsulates a lot of things. So like, I'll give you an example. So like, yes, I do stand up. Yes, I run an organization called BabeRoar. And I always say that organization is like very generous because it's just me and an Instagram with a dream. It's not anything.
I totally feel that.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's like nothing, but it is great, and I love it a lot. So BabeRoar, I started it in 2017 to uplift and celebrate marginalized voices in comedy. Because when I was a kid, in my parents' basement, which is where I spent all of my summers because it is too hot outside, I just spent all summer watching comedy. And I was like, where are all the women? Like, what is happening that there are no women in any of these casts? And, you know, there are so few women in stand-up. Like, there were lots of great women, but not nearly as many women as men. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it was like very much like a needle in a haystack kind of situation. So when I grew up and I was like, wow, like I could actually impact this in a positive way, I'm going to start something to do it. And over the years, it's like really found itself. Like when I first started working with BabeRoar, I don't know. It's hard to describe it because it's like me, but it's also separate from me. So anyway, when I started doing this work, it looked a lot different than it does today. And I sort of like, over the years, kind of niched down into this idea that like we should be retaining and supporting young, new voices in comedy who are, you know, of like a marginalized identity. So that's my focus right now with my BabeRoar Instagram, okay? 1. 2, I'm on TikTok. It's great. It's so fun. I fucking love TikTok.
I have seen you sharing a lot of your TikToks. And like, I'm jealous because it seems like you're like figuring it out, and I don't know how to TikTok. You know what I mean? Like, I can't think of like how I want to create content for TikTok. So I see you sharing all the time. I'm like, dang, she's like doing it.
It's fun. It's fun. It's like, I always say that it's like the platform I've been waiting for.
Okay.
Because for me, like, I feel like what's really powerful about me is like my light, right? Yeah. That like sort of comes out when I'm talking about these things, and you can like see my face, and like the whole expression of what's coming out of me is like, cumulative in a way, right? So being able to see me, I think, is really important. So when I was on Twitter, I'd be like, this doesn't account for tone, you know?
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
when I went, like, Facebook is just like a big hunk of garbage. Instagram is just like photos, which I've never been like a aesthetic girly, you know what I
Right,
mean?
right.
So, I mean, I love Instagram and I think it's really fun, but it's just like not as good as TikTok. And like, I will go to my grave saying that.
That's that's very fair. TikTok will probably be around until we're all in our graves. And I'm trying to figure out how I want to use TikTok
Yeah.
because just like you were saying, like you were like, it's hard for me to kind of put a label to what I do. Before we were recording, I told
Yeah,
you the
right.
exact same thing. I was like, I use the name tag creative director because I kind of feel like that can like house the 10 different things that I do, because it is hard to kind of like, oh yeah, I do this thing, because no, technically I don't just do that thing. We do
Yeah.
this and that and this and that form and that form and
Yeah.
everything. So when that comes to quote unquote content creation,
Yeah.
I like don't know what it is exact, because like I like doing skits.
Yeah.
I like creating little skits, but I also like creating like really cool, like more serious tone short films.
Yeah.
But I also create a podcast like this. I
Yeah.
also just do a lot of video production projects that are kind of like too high quality for something like TikTok. I feel like, you know,
Okay.
feel like
Yeah.
TikTok's the more like organic,
Oh, yeah.
like, you know,
Gotta
so it's
be.
like, I don't really know how to put that stuff there
Yeah.
either, but I'm not totally like a skit guy yet
Yeah.
either. So it's like, I'm not, and so like, I'm just in this like big pool where all these options are floating around of like,
Right.
no, dude, you could totally make use of TikTok.
Yeah, yeah.
But because it's all just sort of floating around me, I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, I don't even know where to start. Like,
Directionless.
yes, I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know what I want to do
Yeah.
with TikTok. So until I know that, I feel like I'm like, I'm not going to start because I don't want to, because there's been so many phases of my creative life where I've sort of just aimlessly created for the internet. And I'm like, I now know I don't like doing that.
Yeah.
So it's like, even though I'm still going to be, yes, it's in some form creating for the internet, I want
Yeah.
there to be an intention
Yeah,
behind
yeah.
it. Whether it's
Sure.
simple, whether it's big. So
Yeah.
watching people like you like have fun with TikTok,
Yeah.
I truly am jealous. I really am, even though it's like jealous of how somebody uses a social media platform, like, because I can tell you're having fun.
Yeah.
And I can
It's
tell that
fun.
you're like enjoying making it, enjoying
Yeah.
responding to things and sharing things and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here and I'm like,
What
I
the hell?
couldn't even think of what to post. Like, I'm that person who's like, I'm an adult. I watch TikToks that are reposted on Instagram later.
Yeah,
That's what I
right.
want.
No, you're a millennial. That's what we do. So I think that millennials are very skeptical of TikTok. I don't know what happened, but at some point, you know what? I do. I think I do know what happens. So first of all, when I talk to millennials about TikTok, they're like, it's just Vine. It's just Vine. And I'm like, it's way better than Vine. Like,
Right.
I don't know how to tell you that, but it's way fucking better. The algorithm is incredibly good. Like, scary good and also problematically good. And like, it's just, I don't know. It's complicated, but it is really good. So when people talk to me about not wanting to like take on TikTok or whatever, I'm like, that's how I felt about Instagram stories at first. And then I was like, Instagram stories kind of rule after a while. And then I started using them anyway. And so I was like, I'm not going to wait to like try this new platform. I'm just going to do it because I'm not going to be afraid of it like a fucking boomer, okay? No,
fair,
that's what we
yes.
sound like. We're like, I don't trust TikTok.
It's so true, though.
Yeah,
That is, yes.
seriously, like I'm too old to be on TikTok. No, you're not. No,
Yep.
you're not.
Yep.
No, you're not.
And I think that all the time. And not that I think, oh, I'm too old for it. I just think I'm like, oh my God, the fact that I don't understand how to use it. Am I getting old? I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God, no. But I make all this stuff. I still create. Like, I'm
Yeah.
still a creative, even though I don't use TikTok.
Yeah.
Damn it. Like, but there is that thing where I'm like, whoa, like, I'm not old at all, but I'm
Yeah,
feeling
you
like
feel
I'm
it.
kind of old because
you
I'm
have
like,
to adopt something new.
oh, this new app. What is
Yeah.
back in my day? We just posted a
Exactly.
picture
We
of our
sound like
food.
boomers.
I know.
I know. It sucks. I always think about how Danny DeVito and do you watch Sunny?
I don't.
Oh my God. Okay. So there's a line in Sunny where Danny DeVito, it's actually a trans bathrooms episode, which I thought was really well done. But they were talking about, you know, this whole issue, right, in society. And Danny DeVito, who's like the boomer presence on the show, says something like, "Why do I have to keep learning new things?" And I always say that to boomers, like, to make fun of them in front of their face. Yeah. And then they laugh, and I'm like, haha, but it's about you. And now I'm about to say that about millennials, too, because we are so annoying about TikTok.
That's odd. Yeah, I feel like we're going to slowly move into that phase. Why do I keep having to learn new things? Like, that's one stupid thing I always think about is, like, man, when I'm old, like, am I going to have to learn how to teleport?
Yeah.
Like, when teleportation ever exists, I'm going to have to sit there and be like, oh, man, I got to learn how to hit this button. And the grandkids are just teleporting everywhere, and I can't keep up with it. So jumping back in, what's, like, the evolution? Oh, you're good. What's, like, the evolution of BabeRoar been? Because you said, like, it started as one thing and it's kind of turned into another one, and I'm sure it's going to continue to grow.
Yeah.
And obviously you laid out kind of what the goal was, but like, has that goal kind of shaped and shifted along the way of like, oh, I'm seeing kind of how the idea can actually be of better use than maybe what I thought it was going to be at the beginning?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yes. Yeah. At the beginning, I didn't know what it was going to be. And at first, I was really afraid to put my whole self into it for lots of reasons. But as time went, so at first it started as like a let's uplift marginalized artists. So I wasn't like focused on comedy at first. Okay. And then as time went on, I was like, well, I'm not an expert in anything except comedy, really. And I feel like that's like probably what I should focus on. So it did become rather quickly, I would say, like niche down to comedy. And then over time, I was doing things like if like a touring comedian was coming to Cincinnati or Columbus or Cleveland, like in Ohio specifically, I would be like, hey, this person's coming here. Like I would like buy 2 tickets to the show, and I'd be like, I'm giving away 2 tickets if you want to go. And like people are skeptical of giveaways or something. I don't know. It just like didn't really work. So I was like, that's not exactly what I should be doing. I don't know. And then my following kind of grew like nationwide. And so it wasn't necessarily like scalable in a way. So I was like, okay, well, what am I going to do now? And I think eventually how I got to the point of like, well, who needs me most, I think is sort of was my thought process. Like, who needs guidance or help or just a nice word in comedy? Because comedy is cutthroat as fuck. It is an individual sport. It is not a team sport. Comedians will remind you of that every fucking day of your life, that they worked so hard to get where they're at and nobody helped them. Another way that we're like boomers. We're just becoming what we hate. Ah! Okay. I'm sorry, screeched into the microphone. We're just becoming what we hate. And so I don't even remember where I was, but I just wanted to help the people who needed me most. Yeah. And so that's how I came to this, like, okay, maybe, because a lot of times what happens is like a female comedian or a queer comedian will start doing comedy, and then they'll realize how much of a boys club it is. And it's like this like thing, if you don't adapt to it, if you don't like figure out how to play the game, like you're not part of it. You're not wanted, you're not looked at as like a viable person in the scene, and it's all very cliquey. And I've gone through that for 10 years, like I've been doing this for 10 years, and I'm like, look, if I can alleviate one person who feels like me from this like struggle, this social struggle to do the thing that they love, like that's what I want to do. I want to keep you around. I want to be the reason you stay and you don't quit, because it's so hard socially. Yeah. Yeah. And that's like an annoying thing to me is like, I feel like you could insert any industry into what we're talking about right now, and I feel like we could have very similar conversations. I think in entertainment, yeah. Yes. It's like there are no rules. It always becomes super cliquey. Mm-hmm. It always becomes that sort of like, whether it's like a boys club or anything like that, like it always turns into like
somebody or some group of people trying to make it super exclusive of like,
Yeah.
oh no, we're super cool.
We're gatekeeping this.
It truly is.
Yeah.
Because like I've experienced that in the filmmaking world. I've experienced that a lot in the music industry.
Yeah.
And people want to pretend like that's not the
We're
case.
chill and we're cool
No,
and
it's
whatever.
cool, like, but it's like, oh, okay, then how come when I know that either I've, reached out to you to just have a meeting and let's just chat and get to know each other. The message is never answered. The email's never replied to.
Yeah.
The question is never, like, nothing, like, people want to act like they are definitely that, like, no, we're super chill, like, everybody's welcome. I'll share information with whoever wants it. But then when they're put on the spot to actually share that information, to actually make that connection or make a new friendship
Yeah.
outside of a comfort zone they've already created for themselves, they're not about it.
No.
And it's like,
Or if it doesn't benefit them. It's like
That's
if it
the big
doesn't
thing.
if it doesn't get them closer to power,
Yep.
they don't want anything to do with it.
yep. And I don't, like, I get that unfortunately it just seems to be how a lot of the world works.
Yeah.
Is people want power and control
Yeah.
and they want to feel really cool.
Yeah.
And as long as their friends around them are kind of the yes men and they're saying it's, yes,
Right.
you're really cool, we're all really cool together, that's comfortable and, whatever. But like, there's too many industries, and you're 100% right in saying like the entertainment industry is big in that sense.
Yeah.
And I don't know why that is. And I don't know, like, I always think like, when along any of these people's paths do they forget it's cliche, but like, when did they forget where they came from? When did they forget that they were, and of course now it's different for like, I'm sure in comedy or really anything, it's different of like straight white male's path compared to somebody else's
Yeah.
path. I'm sure those can be different.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like, regardless, like, how is that person, whoever they are,
Yeah.
how are they forgetting that, like, at one point in time, no matter what, I was still that person who was trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And there's always at some point in so many people's career
Yeah.
where for some reason, certain individuals tend to forget that.
Yeah.
And that's when they don't, like, oh, why is this person messaging me to like blah, blah, blah. And like, I also understand that like, it's a two-way street. There are a lot of people who want to use somebody within fame or power of some sort
Yeah.
and unfortunately use them to a bad benefit or do just want to use them flat out.
Yeah.
All that sort of stuff. And I understand that that's not just how it works. Not everybody can instantly be connected to everybody for no, whatever. The starting comedian, just because they message the promoter of the
You're
show
not owed anything.
doesn't mean
Right.
that they're owed a headlining
Right,
spot that
right.
night just because they asked for it.
Yeah.
I understand all of that. But still, in that process, I feel like what is always lost is the human element.
People-
And I know it sounds like I'm making it way deeper than what it is.
No, you're not.
But like, it's just person to person talking. And
Yeah.
whether you want to share certain information or you don't, that is okay. But still have that communication.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because like, I've said this so many times on the show, like, if you asked me like, hey, what's the secret to making a short film? What's the secret? I can sit and I can tell you every single step that I have taken to make any short film. And that doesn't mean that tomorrow you'll be able to go and make the exact same short film.
No.
It doesn't matter what information you share because it's up to that person on how they use that information.
Yeah.
So when it goes into that whole gatekeeping thing, like, I've never understood it. I know I'm on a rant here already, but like, I just don't understand that. So it's like,
Yeah.
I do love and get excited about seeing people like you create things like BabeRoar or expanding into anything to give chances to anyone who is being overlooked or whatever it may be, because 100%, we've already said it a million times, but like, the entertainment industry in general,
Yeah.
it can be definitely cutthroat. I'm sure you've experienced it, like, because I think you're deeper into your comedy world than I necessarily am into like my filmmaking world or anything. So I've kind of just been in my own bubble for years. I haven't really expanded and stuff like that, experienced probably enough of what can be cutthroat. I just know the cliques exist. I know
Yeah.
the like, you can't talk to that person because they think they're cooler than everybody
Right.
else.
Right.
So I always get excited when I'm seeing things like this be created of like, simply like, yes, it's one thing of like, cool, we're giving people opportunities.
Yeah.
But two, we're just shedding light on the fact that this stuff exists, and let's not shy away from it, because I think a lot of people try to pretend
Yeah.
that these issues don't exist.
I was just thinking recently, you're absolutely right. You hit every nail on the head, absolutely. I was just thinking the other day that comedy, although it functions almost entirely through nepotism. And this goes for entertainment. I have a friend who works in TV in LA. So like we share stories about what happened, and it's like remarkably similar. Bigger, she's got bigger stakes. It's like her full-time job. This is just like a creative outlet for me. But when you compare and contrast, it's like, the same things are happening. I see what's going on here. Comedy, although it insists that it is a meritocracy, it relies entirely on nepotism. And it's like, who's your friend? Who can you cozy up to? You know, who do you align yourself with? Like, you can't be nice, or you can't be too nice, you can't be too mean. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, it's a really, really hard balance to strike.
Yeah.
And it's not a meritocracy. And if people just admitted that to themselves, perhaps we wouldn't have so many problems. But you know what? That's the way the world works, you know? Right. You can't change it. And I spent a lot of time trying to change comedy. I spent a lot of time thinking, okay, how can we evolve as an industry together? How can I help people see that, like, the hypocrisies that are built into this? And, you know, if I was a man, like, what would my career look like today? You know, like, it probably a lot different. I could tell you endless stories of how I've run into trouble because of my opinions and because of the way that people treat each other in comedy and saying it out loud. I can tell you hundreds of stories. It's a hard thing to talk about because I feel very removed from our local comedy scene right now, and it makes me sad. But I don't feel like at this point it's like a creative community that's really helping me grow. Mm-hmm. So I've really needed to take a step back. And through doing that, I have started to grow this community on TikTok. And I've been putting my jokes on TikTok. And honestly, like, it's really fucking fun to sit in my bed and say jokes into my phone and then have a bunch of people be like, this is so fucking funny. I just, snorted out my water or whatever out of my nose. And you're like, I didn't leave my house or put on pants. And I didn't have to talk to a shitty club owner. And I didn't have to go through this rigmarole of who's this person and who do I need to cozy up to? And all the political shit is just bye. Mm-hmm. I just made a TikTok about this too. How the comedy industry looks right now and how TikTok is totally blowing it up. Because there are people do you know who Elise Myers is on TikTok? You probably don't, if you don't spend very much time on it.
I don't,
Okay.
Yeah.
So Elise Myers is this TikToker, and she, 2 years ago or whatever, was a web developer in Omaha, Nebraska. Now she's a full-time comedian because she got famous on TikTok. And it's it's just revolutionizing the industry entirely. And to deny it or to ignore it is to delegitimize yourself in the future of this industry. Yeah. Because it's happening and you can't ignore it. And you can't just put shitty videos of your set, grainy videos of your sets on TikTok and expect for them to go well, because that's not what people want. You really, at the end of the day, you have to watch a lot of TikToks and figure out, what do I like on TikTok? And then create that kind of content. Yep. Which is what I've been doing too.
And that's exactly what we were talking about earlier. It's I'm aware that I have not figured out how can I enjoy this. Yeah. So I don't want to try and force it, because then it's probably going to seem forced to anybody who watches this. You know what I mean? Yeah, yeah. Something you said in there is that I completely agree with. And I feel like my experience, my individual experience, I can't obviously speak for everybody, my individual experience in the music industry was honestly, sounds very paralleled. In, when it comes to the clickiness and the blah, 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 because something you explained in there is there's almost this idea that especially as a performer, you almost have to constantly be performing twice. Yeah. You're performing for the audience at the show. Yeah. But you also, so many people have to put on this performance for the promoter, for the manager, for the whatever, of like, oh yes, like I'm not going to speak my mind. I'm not going to share my opinion on why I think this is wrong.
Right.
And again, it can be said for, I'm sure, any industry. My example most directly comes from the music industry when I worked in it. It's like that.
Yeah.
It's just like that.
Yeah.
You know, if you're not sucking up to the right people, if you're not the right friends at the right time, what you do matters less.
Yeah.
And even going back to something that you said at the beginning of all of that is, you know, the goal was, you know, you almost got caught up with BabeRoar at first of like, I want to see the industry change as a whole.
Yeah.
You get this like glorious idea that like, okay, this can be the spark
Pie in
that
the
changes
sky.
something.
Yes.
I did the exact same thing with music.
Look at us.
Because we just want to change the world.
We are saviors.
We are just amazing. I hope everyone's praying to us right now listening to this.
Yeah, that's something I mean, that's something I had to overcome internally.
Because you get so attached to it, and it's like, unfortunately, one single person cannot change everything, right? And just because we think we have some good ideas doesn't mean the person next to us is going to be like, that is a good idea.
Yeah.
But even if one person does, it doesn't mean the rest of the people in the room are going to.
Right.
My thought with the music industry was always, you know, it was always this thing of like, you know, why are independent musicians treated so much differently than musicians on a label?
Yeah.
And I don't mean like, oh, the money or blah, blah, blah. Like, I get that there's a record label helping them. But why is there such a gap in there? Why is the promoter of the show treating these independent artists kind of like crap? And it all comes down to like, it's not about money. It's not about cool visual aesthetics or cool music or whatever. It's actually what we were talking about earlier. It's the human element. I noticed for the longest time that was just never there. People act like it's there because they tossed an email saying like, hey, band, you need to show up at the show at 5 p.m. And okay, there we go.
Yeah.
But there was always this disconnect. There was always this almost like mistreatment of the art.
Oh, yeah.
And so
it's exploitive for
so
sure.
So not only was my mindset of this like, okay, you've got like the business side and the art side, and why are they so separate?
Oh, yeah.
But also a layer deeper of like, even the artists themselves, why are you not respecting yourself? Because I would sit and I would watch so many musicians just sit and make something and then clamor for the opportunity at a cool manager guy thinking their stuff is cool, so then they got the validation for their art.
Yeah.
Rather than just believing in themselves from the start, and I understand that is difficult for all of us, but
super hard. Yeah.
rather than just committing to it and being like, I'm making this shit, I'm going to make it good shit, I'm going to make it how I want, I'm going to just do it.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to be able to, like, if I do it with a purpose and an intention, I can better filter through the people that then get involved in my art.
Yeah.
You can filter through, like, maybe that cool manager guy does hit you up.
Yeah.
But if you're sure enough about yourself, you can actually have a filter up in front of that person and be like, I don't know really what you're bringing me other than like a bunch of cool buzzwords.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I truly, like, no one ever directly said anything to me or anything like that, but like, just how you said, like, it's led you to feel a bit of an outsider when it comes to your community.
Yeah.
I truthfully, even though I have made amazing friends in the music industry and all this sort of stuff, like, absolutely. And it's people that if I saw today, we would be like, hey, what's up? It's so good to see you. But throughout that entire time, because my head was so in the clouds of like, I want this amazing thing. Why does nobody else want it? I feel like I was effectively always trying to make change on the inside of something while being an outsider.
Yeah. That's so poignant. Yeah,
like, I
absolutely.
permanently felt like I made myself an outsider because I wanted to speak my mind.
Yeah, because you saw something that you wanted to bring yourself to, as opposed to assimilating to, which is how you become part of the community. And then maybe you can, like, kind of inspire people to be different. But it's like, the thing is, you can't change people, and you can't change their opinions. And that is something that I had to come to terms with. Like, I was doing a lot of, like, negative stuff with BabeRoar. So I would be kind of like, what's the word I'm looking for? I would be really, like, antagonistic almost with, like, men in comedy. I'd be like, so did you see this thing? Yeah, men in comedy suck. And although that is true, in a lot of cases, it's not always true, and it's unfair of me to come in hot with this message because it just like pushes people away from you. And I was doing that for a long time, I think, to protect myself because I was hurt a lot. And, you know, a lot of times I brought to my community, hey, X, Y, and Z is happening. And they'd be like, fuck you, you suck, that's not happening, give me proof. And I'd be like, okay, well, it is. And then like 2 months later, a man would say it, and he'd be like, yeah, this thing is happening, and he's not allowed at my mic anymore. And then people would be like, woo, what a hero. And I'd be like, I said it a month ago, though, but I said it a month ago.
Right.
And
right.
nobody listened to me. You know what I mean? So it's like stuff like that happens a lot where it's like, well, if you position yourself as like an antagonizer, people are going to treat you like an antagonizer. And it's not a way to make any change. And change in and of itself is like, good luck. You know what I mean? Like, the systems that are in place for a reason, and they will resist change at every single step. So in my journey, what happened was at the beginning, maybe I was like 4 or 5 years in to doing comedy. I was doing a competition at the Funny Bone. And I did like, I don't know, I fucked up one of my sets. I like forgot my jokes. And I got off stage and I was like, why did I forget my jokes? I was like, I almost never forget my jokes. And then I realized that I wasn't having any fun when I was on stage. And I was like, oh, I wasn't in the state of play that I usually am when I'm doing comedy. Why is that? And I was like, oh, this environment kind of sucks. This isn't a place where I feel like I'm like growing creatively, like the Funny Bone, you know what I mean? I was like, what, I'm going to do a show at the Funny Bone so that I can say that I do shows at the Funny Bone? And then I was like, that's not what I want. I want to do things that like bring my friends and family joy. I want to curate experiences. I want to create something for a group of people that doesn't exist right now. And comedy has always been this like very male dominated thing. So nobody has really, well, not nobody, but bringing like I want to say the female gaze, but that seems too like highbrow. Bringing like a feminine perspective into comedy is revolutionary. And I'm not calling myself a revolutionary. I'm just saying like in the sense that like, if you see it from a different perspective, if you see it from a perspective that isn't often paid attention to, you can do something different, and maybe that will catch fire, and that's what you should be focusing on. You should be attaching yourself to the positive thing, not the negative thing, because the negative thing will just like bring you down, that'll make you enemies, but the positive thing, that will create sparks of energy and joy and excitement and creativity. And so I took my shows and I started doing them in like a craft store. And I did one at Dome Mama. And now I do one at a nail salon in Clintonville. And these shows are like tiny little pop-up experiences that you can't recreate. You know, it's not the Funny Bone. It's not like you come in, you sit down, you order chicken fingers, you go home. Or you watch a show, you go home. It's like, oh, we're going to this like show at this nail salon. Who's going to be there? What's it going to look like? You know, how are they going to set up like there's just all of these like unique little details that you don't get elsewhere. And I call it boutique comedy, and I really love that. But it's just like, it's totally different than anything I've ever seen.
Well, I think that's like the unique thing that comes from having the intention that you create from being, how can I enjoy this?
Yeah.
Because it's been said a million times, but like if you really enjoy something and the way something's done, whatever it is, there's probably somebody else that does as well, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so it's like if you don't see that thing exist and no one else is doing it, well, why not leave it up to yourself to do it? Because there's probably somebody somewhere that likes that, that enjoys it. So it's like when you're leading from that, like, I don't know, that purposeful place of like, all right, how can I, it's not even necessarily about like being better than something, but how can I be more unique from something?
Yeah, yeah.
And like, that I feel like is how, again, I feel like I relate so much to so many of the things you're talking about. Of like, I really do feel like I have always tried to do something in a unique or different way, even if it's like very, like it's nudging up against like, well, yeah, you're doing the thing that everybody else is doing, but here's a slight tweak.
Yeah.
But here's why that tweak is made.
Yeah.
It's not to attempt to change everything and be better than.
No.
It's just how can I add, and I love that you explained it that way of like, how can I add to in a positive way, and maybe that begins to add more positive.
Yeah.
Rather than being focused on like, here's the problem,
Yeah.
and instead of trying to solve it with some action or whatever, I'm going to try and solve it by like taking away or being angry or something. And it's like, you're right. Like then it is just like, okay, well, I don't know, we're just fighting the problem. That's a pretty strong problem. And I don't know, you know, how many, you know, angry meetings we can sit in or whatever to sit and be like, no, this needs to change. And it's like, well, I don't know.
It's going to resist it.
Right. And so the only way that you can make those changes is by just like trying to create
creating something new.
Just creating something new, creating something more unique than the thing that exists, rather than trying to make the same thing that exists, but better.
Right.
It's like, well, it kind of already exists. And most of the time, people get comfortable with something exists, even if something better comes along.
Right.
Most of the time, just like we've been talking about this entire time, people often resist change.
Yeah.
Things resist change.
Yeah.
You know, TikTok comes along. Why isn't it Instagram?
Exactly. Yeah.
That's just what it is.
Exactly.
You know, whether it's better than, more unique than, whatever.
Yeah.
It's just but this is just how it's been. So in the same way that a local music show might be booked or handled or promoted, or the way that those bands will interact with the managers or the whatever, it's probably just how it's always been. So if somebody shakes that up, it's going to be looked at as like, oh my God,
why are you doing that?
And so I'm certain that it is nearly the same in the comedy world and again, the entertainment world at large. Like, if you come in and it's like, no, wait, hold on, why are you wanting to do it this way? No, that's not how we do it.
Yeah.
My question to that always is, well, why?
Why?
And that's not to sit and say, well, no, Ross, we can't give away 100 free tickets. We'll make no money. That's the why. Those aren't the questions that we're at. You know what I mean? It's like, well, why can't this person be on a show? Why can't we promote it in this way? Why can't we have fun in this way? Why can't we do things not just at the same comedy stores that there are everywhere? You know what I mean? Like the same venues, the same whatever. And I understand there's a structure to follow, but I still think that structure in place for anything should always be tweaked and tinkered with and changed a little bit. You don't have to change the entire structure of something for it to be different. Yeah. If you're changing a piece here and there, I think that can create a subtle domino effect of like, oh, now this is done differently. Yeah. And that's done differently. Yeah. Thus creating a slightly different experience for the people involved, whether it's the creators or the audience that it's going to. Right. I always like, and I always feel like this is the dumb thing that I'm going to downplay myself with for a second. I shouldn't do this, but like anytime I go on these rants on this podcast, because I've had a few of these conversations where I'm like, why can't things change? You know, I always do it, and I'm like, oh, it just sounds like you're just on your high horse, and you think all your ideas are cool. And I always picture, like, the person listening to this who is in those systems and what they're saying. Yeah. Oh, you don't understand. It's business, and you clearly aren't smart enough to understand. And it's like, I always picture those things. I'm like, man, should I be saying any of this? But at the same time, it's like, no, like, I believe all these things. Yeah. Everything that you're telling me, I believe. And I'm like, yeah, why can't things be different? Right. Why can't things be a little more unique than what they are? And whether there's that super cool quote-unquote business guy listening to this or not saying, these guys don't know how to promote a show, these guys don't know how to run a business, clearly. It's like, well, maybe you're just doing it the exact same way that everybody else has been doing it. Yeah. And you don't have a unique viewpoint on these things. Like, it's not that we're right or that we're super smart or anything. It's just like, I don't know why these systems or whatever, especially in a place like the entertainment world where things are supposed to be fun. Yeah. Why are there not more open and accepting and different viewpoints for things? Like I don't, and clearly we don't have the answers. No. And us ranting on a podcast doesn't fix it. No. But it is just like putting it out there of like, it is confusing. Yeah. It's strange to see. Yeah, it is. It's hard to watch. I mean, I think that one of the things that I remind myself of pretty frequently is that some value systems, some experiences, some group experiences are going to be fine for lots of people. You know, like lots of people are happy with the way Columbus comedy is, and that's great. You know, if that works for you, good.
it doesn't work for me. And to deny myself the truth of what I want and need from my artistic experience is to assimilate to a culture that will make me miserable. And so, there was a long time where I was, and I'll admit this, there was a long time where I was like, my way is better, and you guys suck. And you're making shows for comedians instead of audiences, and that sucks. And you're not having good shows or good turnout because that's what you're doing, and that sucks. And I don't do that, and I'm better than you. I thought that for a long time. And now, because of something that happened last year, which is cryptic, and you can ask me about it. Because of something that happened last year, I have everything has changed. My whole perspective on everything that I'm doing and why I'm doing it has entirely changed. Success only looks like what you want success to look like. And for me, that means sticking to my values, creating a positive environment for people like me who feel the way that I did, and to just make people feel good. That's my only goal. Make people feel good. Make comedians feel good. Make audiences feel good. Create shows for audiences, not comedians. To have sort of a bigger picture attitude toward it. And not that my perspective isn't any better than anyone else's. Because like I said, for some people, that system works just fine for them.
Yeah.
But for me, it doesn't.
Yep.
And I need to do my own thing, and I need to go out on this path.
So I'm glad that you kind of circled back around to, the idea and the importance of creating the thing that you want to create, making the quote unquote change that you want to see, right?
Yeah.
So I want to ask you about the cryptic thing.
Yeah.
But before we get to that, I do want to emphasize what you just explained, because I think that's, we touched on this earlier, the idea of the bubble mentality, right? It's you can see the clicks and you can see the way that things are, and maybe you don't totally love it. And just like you said, going through that phase of we all do it 100%. We always think that the way that we do something is better than something else. And we already talked about this.
Yeah.
Rather than just accepting it of all right, I don't have to be better, but if I can just be different, then I can accept that, and that is okay.
Yeah.
And I think we're ranting about all these things and we're raving about them and things need to change, blah, blah, blah. And I think it's important to emphasize the solution that it totally sounds like you're focused on and that I've learned to focus on over the years. And I don't even really work in the music industry anymore, so that was a part of the solution,
yeah.
right? But the solution, in light of just it sounding like we're complaining, the solution is to be okay with the fact that maybe sometimes it feels like you're in your own bubble, but maybe it's all right to actually continue making that bubble, making that place flourish.
Yeah.
Because what's going to eventually happen is it's going to continue to grow, and it's going to bring in other people that want to be included in that bubble.
Right.
Rather than trying to carry your light and your whatever
Yep.
into somewhere else that it might not
It's
fit
not
in.
appreciated. Yeah.
That is often the solution.
Yeah.
And I know we've been kind of saying that entire thing, this entire time, but that I think is the solution to a lot of this stuff that we've ranted about.
Yes.
Is understanding that it's not about being better, it's about being different.
Right.
And embracing the fact that, okay, sometimes we can feel like outsiders.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you have to beg and cry and bang on the door to be let in of that place.
Yeah.
Maybe just start creating your own place out here, because I guarantee, whether it's slow or not, whatever it is, everything takes time.
Yeah.
I guarantee that if you build your place and allow it to flourish, again, working from a place of intention and purpose, there's going to be like-minded individuals, or there's going to be people that want to see something and experience something different, that are going to look across the street and be like, wait, what are they building over there?
Yeah.
Because, I don't know, that seems pretty cool. I want to go check that out too.
Yeah.
And it's not even about an us versus them thing. It's not about, just because I left this to go to this means I can't have, you can experience both.
Yeah.
There are people who can be like, I want to be in this cool, new, bright place.
Yeah.
And I want to still also be involved in the thing that I have grown to love this entire time anyway.
Yeah.
But you can experience both, and that becomes the uniqueness and importance of having something different.
Yeah, right.
Having an alternative to what has existed and been in place for so long.
Yeah.
So that, I think, is often like the solution to a lot of these things, is embracing what's different.
Yeah.
And making something new out of it.
Right.
And focusing on that rather than, I have to be a mole on the inside and I've got to change it. I've got to change the entire structure. Like,
Yeah.
does that sound cool? And it sounds like a movie script, that's made every other month? Of course. Like,
It sounds exhausting.
but it also sounds exhausting.
Yeah.
Because then you're working from a place of trying to defeat something rather than just create something new.
Right.
And I
something
think
that, defeating something so big that it could never truly be defeated. I think that it can, but it'll take a lot of time.
Right.
Like, in my personal opinion, comedy clubs are dinosaurs, and they are on their way to extinction because
Really?
they are
Okay.
not good businesses, and they exploit artists. But I think that I see a future with far less comedy clubs than there are now. And I think that because I think that they are going to phase out in the way that I was saying that TikTok is changing things. Elise Myers isn't going to go and play a funny bone. She's going to go and like sell out a fucking theater in anywhere she goes, because she has 5 million followers.
based off of her own thing.
Her own following, her
Yeah.
own thing. She doesn't need a club to sell tickets for her. She just needs a space.
Mm-hmm.
And, who wants to work with comedy clubs?
But
I know I
think-
shouldn't say that because it goes against everything in my industry, but it's not for me.
But
it's just not for me.
But I understand what you're saying, though, because like there is so much of that change happening, again, especially in creative and entertainment endeavors.
Yeah.
I could say the exact same thing, just sticking with the music industry comparison.
Yeah.
There are plenty of bands, plenty of musicians and artists that are finding ways to find, quote unquote, fame or followings or success of whatever metric.
Yeah.
Just by existing on the internet, just by making a cool song in a TikTok.
Yeah.
And it's going to get a bunch of plays and a bunch of streams and a bunch of people are going to like it. And then guess what? When a manager or a label comes knocking and says, oh, we want a piece of that, they now have the power. The
Yeah.
creatives are starting to get more of the power now
Yeah.
to sit and say, well, I don't know, you can't really offer us anything. Like, basically what you're offering us is like
Distribution. Yeah.
and then taking a percentage of money we make.
Right. Yeah.
Honestly, our TikTok just
I'm going to rely on the algorithm.
right.
Yeah.
Like, which is like weird to say, but it's so
Yeah.
like you explained it earlier.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm putting my jokes in TikToks and
Yeah.
and it's not about like the people or anything like that, but it's like you're getting cool reactions on the
Yeah.
internet and you didn't have to leave your bed. Like
Yeah.
there's
power in that.
There's power in that.
Yeah.
There is a wave of change happening in that.
Yeah.
So I do think, and obviously I'm not deeply involved in the comedy scene to really speak on it, but I can agree in the sense of like, I'm sure there is something happening with comedy clubs, or that would happen unless they change and evolve.
Yeah.
Because this wave isn't just on the internet. This
No.
wave, I mean, we're seeing it in a ton of different ways, right?
Yeah.
Tons of change and tons of things that are like, oh, we don't need to go to this place anymore to like go and get, you see an article like are millennials killing restaurants?
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
well, I don't know. like,
Maybe. We're just
who-
doing it better. I don't know. We're doing
just-
it differently.
we're just ordering the food now and we
Yeah.
whatever. It's like, and I know those are silly comparisons, but like, it's all to say that like I do think there are a lot of waves of change happening in those
Yeah.
senses, especially in the creative world, where yes, the power is going to the creative way more
Yeah, for sure.
than it is the labels or the comedy clubs or the venues and the managers. Like, and I don't necessarily see a problem with making the business-minded people have to work harder than the artists.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wouldn't mind seeing, and
Yeah.
I do think it's probably changed, but like, I want to see the business person have to make a harder sell to the artist as to why they're needed
Yeah.
than the artist having to beg the business
Yeah.
person to help them out.
Right.
I'm
right.
down to see that.
Yeah, that power
change,
dynamic could
like,
change, and that'd be sweet.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I mean, I think it'll always be somewhere kind of, well, I don't know. I think it'll always be somewhere kind of in the middle, which I think is, which I think is fine. I can't remember what I was going to say, but yes, I agree with you.
So, in lieu of forgetting it
Yeah.
honestly probably preventing us from going down a whole other rabbit hole.
You're right.
Cryptic story, right? You said something earlier, and you
Yeah.
said, "Hey, something happened. You can ask me about it if you want."
Yeah.
I mean, we gotta uncover that now.
Yeah.
Like, what happened? What changed? What did it change? Is it something involving like comedy clubs and your
yes.
involvement in the comedy scene? Like,
Yes.
what was it? What's the story?
Yeah, 2 comedians last summer, 2 male comedians, spread a rumor that I contacted the Columbus Funny Bone in order to like prevent certain men from being booked there, which is something that I did not do. And I have proof that I didn't do it. One of the other comedians in the scene called the Funny Bone and was like, "Hey, do you know anything about this?" And they were like, "I don't even know what you're talking about. Like, what? Who is that?" You know, and so I had proof that I didn't do this thing, and I got fucking canceled anyway. And people were so brutal and so mean. And it was like, and I get it. I think it's like, it was this moment that, you know, I had been acting very holier than thou and very like, I'm better than all of you. And they finally had this like catharsis to be like, oh, we always knew Christine wasn't as good as she said she was or whatever. And it's like, yeah, I mean, I'm not. Like, I'm a human being just like all of you. Like, I was being a jerk. I get it. But at the same time, I didn't do that thing, and I didn't deserve what I got. And so it cascaded me into like a real existential crisis. And I had to sort of get back to basics about what is important to me and how I am going to pursue this art in the future. And so it really, like I said, it changed everything that I thought I knew. It humbled me. It made me a much better person in the world because it like expanded my compassion in a way that like nothing else can. And I don't know. I guess for a while I was like, how am I going to talk about this in a way that is cathartic for people who it's happened to, or how am I going to talk about this in a way that like expresses like how sad and lonely I felt. And then toward the last, I don't know, over the last like couple of months, I've just been feeling gratitude because it changed me in a way that I'm really grateful for. I feel like a lot more, I know who I am so much more deeply now because everything was stripped away overnight. And it was like, okay, if this is all there is, then like what's going on inside of me that's keeping me alive, that's keeping me motivated, happy, excited, you know, that's turning my light on. So I had to get really close to those answers. And I don't know. I feel like something is happening right now. It's like it's kicked off some kind of thing inside of me where I'm like, I feel like I'm closer to the thing that I'm supposed to do than ever. And I still don't know what it is, but I'm close and I'm excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, so okay. I love that. I love that story. It started as this cryptic, like, oh man, where's this gonna,
Yeah.
But like the fact that it gave you that perspective shift.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just, it didn't just stay at the like, I can't believe these people did this. What the fuck? Fuck them. This is shitty.
I was there for a long time.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. But like what matters is that like now you've been able to step outside of it.
Yeah.
And you've been able to take something from that. And that's
Yeah.
super cliche of like, take something good from something bad. But
Yeah.
it's like, well,
That's
when you can.
what life is.
That's
yeah.
what,
you get your ass beat and sometimes you win. That's,
right.
that's life.
But it's like, but that's so important because it shows the ability to grow. It shows the ability of like, okay, cool. Yeah, maybe in a weird way, this is a wake up call that I needed. And there's this quote that I heard somewhere that's like, it's like a question of like, who are you when nobody else is around?
Yeah.
And that's not just like, oh, if you're in a room by yourself and everybody leaves, what do you do? It's not that. It's more so like when those things do get stripped away.
Yeah.
When there is no one around to place judgment or ask questions or influence you or whatever, or nothing's in the way. Taking all those things away what are you at your core?
Yeah.
Who are you at your core? And I think it's super important when we kind of experience things like that. We experience those things that make us kind of question, like, okay, where am I? What am I really doing?
Yeah.
What is my real value here?
Yeah.
And then if we can kind of wake something up that says, oh, okay, cool, I need to kind of re-strategize. Annoying as shit that it came from, a shitty thing happening.
Yeah.
For sure, because
Yeah.
yes, you're gonna sit for months and be like, "What the fuck? This is terrible. This
Ooh,
is terrible."
it was lonely.
None of this, like,
Yeah.
perspective shift. Like,
Yeah.
it's not an overnight thing.
Yeah.
It's never an
No.
overnight thing.
No, it took a year. A
Yeah.
whole year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's so important to hear that you did
Yeah.
figure that out.
Yeah.
Because you could have been sitting this entire time and just be like, "Fuck that, fucking stupid."
Yeah.
But it's important to sit and say, like, "No, yeah, fuck that, it's fucking stupid."
Yeah.
But look at kind of where it kind of propelled me in a different way.
Yeah. Exactly.
Look at kind of how I bounced off of that.
Yeah.
And was able to kind of continue to grow
Yeah.
in this way.
Right.
Things like that are insanely strange.
Yeah, I mean, the same happened with my divorce. I was like married to my ex-wife, and I was friends with my now husband, and husband is such a funny word. We call each other partner, but I don't even, like, calling him husband seems so foreign. Anyway, I was friends with him, and he was like, "You don't seem happy in this relationship." And I was like, "I'm not." And he was like, "Maybe leave then." And I was like, "I didn't think about that." And he was like, "You deserve better." And then, like, it just so happened that we got together. Like, I don't know what the fuck I don't know how it all happened. Logistically, looking back, it just seems like a miracle. But he sort of he gave me that call. He called me to walk away from something that wasn't serving me, and I could have said no, but instead I said yes, and now my life is so much better. And it was hard. It was, I was living with my wife. We were married, and suddenly, like, I was jumping off this cliff, not knowing if there was a net. I was like, well, I guess I'm jumping. I don't know. If I don't, I'll regret it for the rest of my life. And now I'm in this place where I'm, like, in such a good relationship, and I'm so happy. And you have to do, like, this is cliche too, but you have to get your ass kicked in order to have the good stuff. You have to. That's just the way it works. Trauma propels your story forward, just like in movies. I mean, that's why art imitates life. It's like, you just have to get your ass kicked. And being at peace with that makes life a lot more bearable.
Yeah.
Was that dark? I don't know.
No. That was, no, that's me being like, yeah, no, you're totally right. Like, it's so much of what I feel like we've almost repeated ad nauseum at this point, but it's like, it's being open to embrace the changes.
Yeah.
It's being open to getting uncomfortable, to take those leaps off that cliff of, like, I have no clue what happens at the bottom of this, but, like, it's almost like being okay with, like, the little bit of pain that happens when you maybe hit the bottom of that cliff.
Yeah.
And understanding that maybe that little bit of time that you're going to be feeling that is better than the continuation of time that you're going to be feeling the pain that you're currently in.
Right.
It's almost this trade-off of, like, I'm going to be really uncomfortable when I get here.
Yeah.
But I'm going to be able to pick myself up, dust myself off.
Yeah.
And now we're somewhere new.
I'll be okay.
Yes, exactly.
I'll live through it.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard.
So has this, and I know so much of what you've shared so far is like, hey, this is a lot of stuff that I've kind of been learning recently. You know, you openly shared, like, I used to kind of be the antagonist person that just wanted to kind of feed the negativity a little bit. And that's how I thought I could fight it.
Right.
And now you're saying, I'm changing that a little bit. It's not the way I want to do it.
Yeah.
But I feel like you also have regardless of that, and I know, yes, I'm sitting here and I'm talking to this version of you now that might be different than a past version, but, like, is this sort of, like, understanding of things kind of always been with you? Like, this sort of, like, embracing of change or wanting to invoke change? Like, is that something that's kind of always been in you,
Yeah.
or is it just sort of like in the last couple of years I kind of found out who I am? Like,
No, yeah, I've always been very, like, my anger is activated by injustice, which is something that I've learned recently, but it's always happened. So I've always gotten really pissed off when, like, I encountered some kind of hypocrisy or some kind of oppression or, you know, like, any kind of thing where I'd be like, how do you not see that this is so fucked up? You know what I mean? Like, that kind of stuff used to just, like, fire me up in this way that, like, to the point where I was angry all the time. I was angry all the time because of how much injustice is in our world and how frequently we see it and we're running up against it because of the internet. Like, it's everywhere, it's all the time. And it's like, I can't fight everything. You know what I can do? I can fight in comedy to make it a better place for people like me starting in their careers. That's what I can do. I can do that. I will do that. I will do it fucking well. But you know what? I can't fight every fight. So if you have a fight that you feel really passionately about and you want me to, like, donate to your cause or show up for a volunteer shift or whatever, I will help you with your fight, but I cannot take on your fight. You can help me with mine, but you can't take on mine. I'll have one fight. I will help other people. I will have one fight of my own. That's all I can do. I am one person. So, yes, it has been with me, but it's changed over time.
yeah.
Yeah.
You and I are very similar in this way, because I have had to kind of check myself the last couple of years, especially with a lot of things that have come to light over the last couple of years. I've realized how, I mean, just like I'll just steal exactly what you said just to say that I can relate to it. Is like the idea of, like, I started to realize that I get very, very furious at injustice of any sort of kind or whatever. And I know I'm this way in the business and creative world because I always attach myself to something that I care about. So then it begins to kind of consume my emotions a little too much.
Yeah.
Even if there's nothing directly that I can do to change that.
Yeah.
But, like, a lot of stuff that's happened in the last few years in the world, like, I honestly kind of had to reprocess, like, how I ingest and then output my reaction to a lot of that stuff, because I was like, I would honestly, like, find myself getting triggered at things.
Yeah.
And I know it's based on a lot of things we're talking about. Somebody could sit and be like, you're a straight white dude. You can't sit and be like, oh, you're getting so triggered at this stuff. But it's like, that empath part just takes over.
Yeah,
that just takes the captain of the ship.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
People are hurting,
Yes.
and that hurts me.
and I'm like, man, that really pisses me off.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
I had to kind of check myself and get better at having those conversations with people that feel differently, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Because conversations will pop up with certain individuals and they'll be like, why are you sharing this? Why are you saying this? And at first I was like, dude, I don't give a fuck what you're telling me. Otherwise, I'm literally not listening to what you say. I don't care.
Yeah, yeah.
This is the side of things that I'm on. And if you don't like that,
Yeah.
I don't fucking care.
Yeah.
Now, there's still a little bit of me that's like, well, depending on what we're talking about, I really don't care your differing opinion, because sometimes there is a right and a wrong, and I don't care what side you want to be on.
Yeah.
But I had to kind of try and slow myself down and be like, man, I am, like, dumping myself into this. And just like you
Yeah.
said, like, you're just angry all the time.
I was
And
I was running out of energy so quickly.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's not that, like, oh, don't expend energy on hoping the world changes. Oh, that's silly. It's like, no. Just understand, like, what you can do or what you can't do.
Yeah.
And how much of your energy needs to really go into that. And also, like, I focused on kind of remolding my reactions to a lot of those things. Of like, all right, let's not just focus on, like, I'm going to share a bunch of stuff on social media because I'm angry.
Yeah.
Because then it's going to spawn those annoying conversations that I don't really want to have anyway. But also learning, like, okay, if those annoying conversations pop up, what's my limit?
Yeah.
You know, like, I will listen to this person's point of view, but
Yeah.
also be very stern in my point of view of, like, hey, man, you're not going to talk me into being okay with that thing that you think is okay.
Yeah. We just disagree, and that's normal.
Yes.
We disagree, and that's normal. I recently had this conversation with someone in my TikTok comments because I made a video about Drew Offwallow, who is a TikToker who takes, like, misogynist content from dudes who are, like, making fun of women, like, being very fucked up about, like, how the things they say about women. And she takes their content and then she'll like stitch it, and she'll make fun of them back. So she'll be like, here's the taste of your own medicine, and then they freak out and they hate it, and it's like, it's this whole thing. And some guy was in my comments like, you really shouldn't be making fun of people no matter what for their looks or whatever, and she does that. And I was like, yeah, but this is like structural like oppression happening. Like, she doesn't call them fat, she doesn't say things like, she doesn't inflict systemic oppression on them in the same way that they do with their content. She just kind of like makes fun of them because they're being idiots, and they deserve it. And it's like, like, don't say anything if you don't want somebody to make fun of you and be an asshole.
Right.
You know what I mean?
If you're gonna put your opinion out there, you got to be prepared for somebody else's opinion to combat it.
Yeah.
Because I guarantee not everybody thinks the same way that you do.
Yeah.
Just like right now, there's so much stuff that we've probably said in this podcast that somebody could be like,
oh,
wrong,
that's wrong. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's all right.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Like, it's, you know what I mean?
It's okay. Yeah.
And especially also like somebody creating like funny content out of somebody being a dickhead, I'm always going to be in favor of.
I mean, come on.
Like,
it's like, yeah,
it's
like
like,
you get what you get, you reap what you sow. You know
right.
what I mean?
Like, if you can't take a taste of your own medicine, then it's like,
get out of the kitchen, babe.
It's like, all right, that's kind of your fault.
Right.
Like, so maybe we're shedding light on the real problem. And
Exactly.
There's something wrong with you.
And that's the point. And
Yes.
that's the point.
Yes.
Is like, it's okay that this guy in my comments doesn't understand the difference between what Drew does and what these men are doing, because it's not for him.
Right.
He doesn't understand it. He'll never understand the systemic piece that comes in for us. He'll never get that because he's never experienced it. And that's okay. And, to be able to say, like, look, I understand that you feel that way. I disagree. That's normal. It's okay to disagree. Shut down the conversation. Because then people weren't trying to, like, one-up each other about, like, showing each other, like, I'm right. No, I'm right. No, I'm right. No, I'm right. It's like, well, you're both right. I mean, whether or not I like your opinion, it's your opinion, and I can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
So we just disagree, and that's normal.
Yes.
We just need to be comfortable with it.
There's a phrase that I heard a while ago that I in a lot of those moments, I try to kind of remind myself of. And the phrase was, you're right, nobody else is wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the sense of like, yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah.
They're not wrong, though.
Yeah.
Because whether we can fight on like what is actually right and what is actually wrong and all that sort of stuff, like, yeah, there's some stances to be taken there.
Right.
But it's more about the perspective. Like, that person does not believe that they're wrong.
Yeah.
Can people's minds be made to change through a solid conversation or something? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, maybe.
That can happen, but
It's not my job.
It's not your job to expend that energy to try and quote unquote fix that person or change that person or whatever it may be. And it's like, it's hard to pick and choose those battles because there's a lot of times where like, no, like I want to fully explain to you why this joke is funny and why you shouldn't be worried about it and all that sort of stuff. And then at the same time, it's like, am I really going to spend the next like 30 minutes in the comment section of this thing? Like,
no.
I thought the thing was funny. I'll enjoy it. And dang, that person didn't. Oh, oh well.
Yeah.
You know?
Also, the videos, the two of the videos that I'm referring to on my TikTok utilize comedy theory. So I wrote a thesis in my undergrad 10 years ago about women in comedy, and it was about how it was called "You Have to Be Ballsy but Likeable: The Dilemma of the Female Comic."
Incredible.
And it was really fun to write, and I ended up like making a TikTok about it, and it kind of blew up in a way that I didn't expect it to, like in a way that is like, wow, my distinct brand of nerdiness is like really cool to a lot of people. Like, how did that happen? You know what I mean? Like, it was very surprising to me. But at the same time, I was like, this is what makes my light turn on. Like, when I am doing this thing, I am radiant, you know? And when you're doing that, people want to be close to you. And I mean, my platform is growing. It's growing every day, and I'm really proud of that because I feel like I'm putting things into the world that make my light turn on. And what is the purpose of being alive other than like letting your light shine, like being your truest self. And like, I mean, I can feel it right now. It's like, hello, I'm here, I'm your light, looking in the camera. That is the only thing that is important to me creatively now. How can I show you what my light looks like? And that's fucking gorgeous.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have known that before last year when all of that trauma happened to me.
Interesting.
And now I'm here and I'm like, oh my God, like I get it. Like I get it.
Yeah.
It feels good.
Okay, so something you mentioned in there, you said comedy theory. Is that what you mentioned? I'm not sure if I'm familiar with that. Like, can you explain that? Like, what is?
Yeah.
What is that necessarily?
That's a great question to define comedy theory. Well, I mean, it's like anything else. It's like, it's like research about why we laugh, research about what happens, the power dynamics of comedy. Like, comedy is power dynamics forever and ever, amen. Like, I'll say that until I die. But it's basically the science of why we laugh, or not even science necessarily, but like the ideas that are really hidden in the root of what laughter is. And it's fascinating and it's fun and people are into it, which I'm really surprised by. But now I really want to start a podcast called Why We Laugh. So like if you want to team up on that.
Dude, okay. Here's some, I know we're meeting for the first time. Here's something dangerous you must know about me.
It almost made me spit out water.
It is very dangerous to tell me an idea that you have. Because it's going to make me excited, and I'm going to be like, yeah, how can we do that? How can I help? What can we do?
I see your light.
My gosh. Dude,
yeah.
I am that person. I am that person who, like, it legitimately is dangerous to share an idea with me.
So cute.
I've learned to not be pushy about it.
Yeah.
Because for a while, that's something I did.
Sure.
I would be that friend who would get too excited about somebody's thing, and I'd be like, you can do it, you can do it. And it's like, I don't even know if I want to do it, dude. It was just an idea, right?
Yeah.
So I've learned to kind of like reel that in.
Yeah.
But I still get excited where I'm like, yeah, no, whatever the thing is you're talking about, like you can do it. If there's ever a way, if there's something you need my help with, let me know. I'll try to do it. If not, I'll connect you to somebody who can do it. Like, So I get real excited about stuff like that. So I'm just going to instantly tell you, you should do that. So like, go and make that podcast. Please do that.
Yeah.
What was the podcast you made before? I don't know if we were recording when you had mentioned you made one, or if it was before, but you said you'd kind of dabbled in this before.
Yeah, it was called Babes to Know. It was like, it's very similar to what you're doing. So I had a lot of like artists or creatives or I don't know, just people who I thought were interesting. I was kind of like, I don't really know a lot about them. I'd like to learn their story. And so I'd bring them on. So I had, I don't know if you know Jordan from the Tarte Peach. She like runs this like really small lipstick company that's like all handmade. And I think she makes lipstick and nail polish. So I had her on like really at the very beginning sort of her career. And now she has like a whole business that she's like sells wholesale and like all this shit. But I was like, this is really cool. Like I want to get to know what she's doing. And so a lot of times these people like weren't being covered by traditional media, but I was like, that person is doing something fucking cool and they're going somewhere and I want to know more. And so that was kind of the idea behind it. And it was really fun to do because I would just sit down and talk to people and we would talk for 2 hours, just like this, exactly like this. They'd be like, should I prepare anything? And I'd be like, no, I'm just going to talk to you, literally.
Yep.
No, we're just going to I'm just going to get to know you. And so, yeah, it was really fun.
I feel like I love talking to people too much, which I don't know if that's, I'm not saying that's like, oh man, it's a bad thing I'm trying to change. I'm just saying like, dude, there are so many times where I've had like a first time meeting with somebody.
Yeah.
And as long as we don't have a time constraint, there are so many times I have sat with a person for 4 to 6 hours in the coffee shop or wherever we are because we just talk about everything because I love having those conversations. It's like, we're going to talk about like the task at hand. Maybe we're talking about a project we're going to do together or whatever. But like, I'm so open to like all the side quests that we're going to take with that, all the deep dives that we can take into that. Like, I feel like there's so much value in stuff like that. And just like you were saying, when you did your podcast, like, I love shedding light on things that I don't know are getting that quote unquote traditional coverage.
Yeah.
When I'm like, no, I think that person has an important story to tell, whether they're well known, whether they're not, whether they're just starting, whether whatever.
Yeah.
I feel like everybody's story has valuable points no matter what it is.
Absolutely.
And as long as they're willing to talk and share
Yeah.
those things, right? It's like,
Yeah.
why not shed more light on that? Like, this is honestly coming from the same root that all my complaints of like the music industry and all that sort of stuff comes from, right?
Yeah.
There's like more that can be done about like shedding light on things and letting people express themselves. And so now it's like, I learned how to create my own bubble.
Yeah.
I'm in total control of this stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
get to have the conversations and have the people on and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's doing something like, I don't have to like work to do this.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, I got to set some lights and cameras up and make sure it's, you know, working the right way and stuff. But it's just, I'm just having conversations with people. I'm just getting to know people and what they do and what they're passionate about and what they're afraid of, what they are scared of, what they want to change. Like, I love talking about those sort of things.
Yeah.
So whenever those opportunities arise, and especially when I see or hear anybody else ever doing them, I'm like, yes, more of this.
Yeah, right.
More of this.
Yeah.
I would love to see more of this sort of like, and it's not like change or something. Everybody has a podcast nowadays and everybody's having raw, unedited conversations.
Yeah.
But I'm also like, yeah, let's just do that more.
Right.
Let's not do the like, did you read the script before you sat
right.
down? Like, did you,
Right.
you know, like, let's talk about the thing for 10 minutes and then we're out of here.
Yeah.
You know, like, and somebody could think, dude, a 2-hour conversation is way too long. And it's like, all right, well, you don't have to be there.
All
Like,
right.
that's okay. Like, I loved having it, so that's great. Something I would love your perspective on is like, especially even talking about like the comedy theory and all that sort of stuff, like brought this to my brain. But like, what do you feel is like the direction of comedy nowadays? Because I feel like there's all these sort of like things popping up, a lot of hot topics of like, what can comedians joke about? What can they not joke about? When's something taken too seriously? When's it not? Why did, like, okay, this person got mad at this and that person got mad at this, or then the comedian defends themselves. Like, looking at all that, and I'm asking you this because I haven't gotten to like really sit down with a comedian and be like, hey, what's your perspective on this? Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like the idea of like, what's funny, what's not, what can we touch on? Where's almost the line in like, hey, we're just saying some jokes.
Yeah.
I didn't mean it. It's just
Yeah.
a joke, but also like, hey, maybe we shouldn't joke about that.
Yeah.
Like, what's your perspective on that? Like,
Well, it's really tough in comedy for me to define what that line looks like or where that is. Because I think that when comedy comes from personal experience, it's very hard to tell someone that they can't express about their full experience, their experience as a person. Now, I think there are limitations to that. I don't think that's like a hard and fast rule, but I also think that it's something that isn't always taken into account, right? Like, you know, I don't make jokes about things, especially like oppression really in the world that I haven't specifically faced. So when Dave Chappelle gets on a microphone and starts talking about trans people, I'm like, what are you doing and why? Like that kind of stuff is like, yeah, that's outside of your experience. Maybe you shouldn't be talking about it. And then like all the trans people I know are like, what trans lady hurt him? You know what I mean? Like, it's just, it shows this kind of like ugly side of humanity that you're like, where is this actually coming from though, Dave? Like, what you doing? You know what I mean? So I feel like personal experience really, really has a lot to do with that. So I think it's kind of like very different for each person, and each person has to decide where the line is for them. I know where the line is for me, which is what I just said. If it's not my personal experience and it's not appropriate for me to talk about, I don't talk about it. At the same time, if you have a different line, like say you're a comedian, you have a different line, you have a different perspective, you want to talk about some of these things that maybe I wouldn't talk about, then you enter when you become a comedian, when you become a person who is in the public eye, you enter into a relationship with the people that you want to entertain, the people whose money is supporting your career by buying tickets, buying albums, watching your shows, whatever. You enter into like a parasocial relationship with them, right? So if you do something that hurts the people who you're trying to entertain, because you are in this parasocial relationship, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, that requires trust and grace on both ways. Both ways. You know, like your audience needs to trust you, and they should give you a little bit of grace, you know, because they're following you and you're a growing person and you're a whole person. But you also have to cultivate trust on your end, right? So if you do something that upsets your crowd, you got to apologize. Like if it was a friend, like, not that audiences are friends, but in the sense that it is a relationship. If it was your friend and you did something that hurt them and then you were like, I don't apologize for jokes, that would end the friendship. You know what I mean? Like, you can't be surprised then if people are upset with you that you don't want to apologize for a joke that you made.
Right.
So that's kind of, I don't know if that answers your question, but it's very complex, I think.
Yeah, and for sure, because it's
Yeah.
almost a case-by-case basis at
Yeah,
this point, right?
yeah.
But, like, I honestly love the way you put that of, like, the bar is different for everybody.
Yeah.
And I do think this kind of goes back to kind of what we were talking about earlier of, like, oh, you know, when I see certain things and it would make me super angry, and then if somebody wanted to have a conversation with me about it, I was just like, no, fuck you, this is my... And then learning how to be like, inside I still might be like, no, fuck you, I don't agree with that. But,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
agree to disagree, whatever, let's just move on. It's not worth the energy.
Yeah.
I almost think that's sort of the same thing with the comedy world in a little bit, or at least what I'm gathering from what you're saying. I feel like we're almost kind of explaining the same thing,
Right.
where it is like, I like the way you put it of, yeah, maybe people's bars are different, and we've got to understand that. And like there are just straight up honesty, there's a lot of stuff that like I would probably laugh at, but not in the sense of like making fun of that person or that whatever. It's more so like, oh, that joke was funny.
Yeah, right.
But I'm also not like, I can't put myself in that person's shoes or whatever of like maybe how that makes them feel or whatever, because there's also the idea that I've heard, you know, a lot in comedy is like, you know, you shouldn't punch down. Right? The idea of like not punching down.
I was just thinking that when you said it. Yeah. You're right.
And so I'm like, okay, I subscribe to that idea. And it's like, but I can also identify, like, I think my bar is probably different. It's like, yeah, I'm not cool if there was a comedian running out on stage dropping F-bombs. Like, and I'm not talking about fuck, you know what I mean? Like talking the other F-bomb, right? Or in or whatever, right?
Yeah.
That I'm like, all right. You know, depending on who you are.
Yeah. It's like if it's hate speech.
Exactly.
We're just like not cool with that.
Because, yes. Well, yes.
Yeah.
Because then it's like, what are you using the joke for?
Yeah.
That I think is like the root of like even what I'm trying to explain is like,
yeah.
all right, yeah, like what are you saying?
Yeah.
How are you saying it? Are you doing it like if you're just doing it to be stupid and funny to where like, because there are comedians absolutely that like, no, I want you to look at me and be like, you're a fucker.
Yeah.
Right? You are an asshole.
Yeah.
You kind of made me laugh. Oh, you're a dick for saying that. Like that's some people's gimmick.
Right.
Like, and it's like, okay, like just like you said, like you're entering this relationship almost of like you got to understand what that person is doing,
right?
What they're trying. Maybe a part of their comedy is to make you be like, oh no, don't say that. Like maybe that's just a part of it.
Yeah.
And whether we can agree or disagree on like, no, that is cool comedy or it's not cool comedy. I do think in the end of the day, it's like, okay, if that's how they're doing their art form, then I don't have to agree with it for them to do it or for somebody else to like it, you know? So like, yes, of course, if it tiptoes into like, all right, you're just hating via joke, that's fucking weird, then that doesn't need to exist. But I do think there is something to like figuring out, okay, like where is your bar? What type of comedy are you trying to do?
Yeah.
What is the thing you're trying to invoke? And where does it come from?
Yeah.
You know, does it come from a personal experience? Does it come from like, I am just making this joke to make a joke? And I'm joking about this thing just as I would joke about anything else.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, because there's those comedians that openly say like, hey, nothing is sacred to me.
Yeah.
Nothing is out of bounds on this stage.
Yeah.
I'm going to make fun of this, and that.
Yeah.
And that's just what it is.
I think that South Park is a really good example of that.
So I love that you brought that up.
I love South Park.
So South Park is genuinely my most favorite show that has ever existed.
Yeah.
Even though like there's a like I wouldn't say I live my life the way that maybe a huge South Park fan necessarily, like a cliche South Park fan might, right? I can't say I'm running around quoting it every day.
Yeah.
But it, in a weird way, this is strange to say, but it's almost my comfort show.
Yeah.
Like, you know how a lot of people watch The Office nonstop?
Yeah.
If I can lay in bed at night and watch South Park as I'm going to sleep, like, I'm like, hey, like, this is sick. And so I do agree that I'm like, all right, there's a lot of stuff that, especially in recent years, that South Park has done that I'm like, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
But I will be honest and say that it's still a little funny.
Yeah. I mean, like,
regardless of what
what was that Caitlyn Jenner episode that they did, which was like kind of funny? I mean, Caitlyn Jenner's an asshole. You know what I mean?
Was it the one where she was kept running everyone over in the car?
Yes, where she ran.
She's
an asshole.
She was becoming Mr. Garrison's vice president.
Yes, she's an asshole. Yeah. She gets away with things because she's rich and famous. And they're poking at privilege. They're not poking at trans people.
Yes, that is always the thing. Like there was actually a whole thing that obviously, I mean, South Park has caused tons of controversy all the time, but there was like a whole episode where people were like, there was a couple episodes actually, where people were like, this is transphobic.
Yeah.
And actually when people dug into it, they were like, no, this is actually standing up for it. It's poking at the phobia.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, the phobia is a story utensil that is being used in the show.
Yeah.
But you've got to be able to look past that.
Right.
And because a lot of people think they're looking deeply into something when they're not. They're just looking at the surface level.
Right.
And just getting angry or whatever, which is okay.
Yeah.
But it's like you got to dig a little bit deeper, because there was a whole episode, I think it's like, it's in one of the recent seasons, the new principal, so the PC principal. His wife.
Yeah.
What's her name? Mrs. Strongwoman, I think.
It's
literally her name. Uh-huh. There's this whole episode where she is entering literally a strongwoman competition because she's an athlete, all this sort of stuff, and there is this blatant male who is posing as a trans person. They literally modeled him after Macho Man Randy Savage. He literally looks like Macho Man, the wrestler, right? And but this person is saying, no, I'm a trans woman, so I can enter this competition, and blah, blah, blah. So a lot of people were like, this is saying that this manly-looking figure, they're saying that's what trans people are. When actually the story of the entire episode is this male that was in the competition was actually Mrs. Strongwoman's ex-husband, who was so upset that she left him. He wanted to ruin her life, so he entered this competition, lied about being trans, so he could try and destroy her life and take away this competition that she was going to win.
Yeah.
But in the end, she actually defeated him anyway, even though he was a male, whatever. Mm-hmm. So she still wins in the end, and it's like, and there was like this actual story arc that like had intention and purpose to it. Mm-hmm. Yes, it's South Park. It's told in a stupid way. But when I saw that explained, I was like, okay, like, I don't even know if I would have actually caught that. Mm-hmm. Because, like, the first time I watched that episode, I'm like, yo, what are we saying here? Like, why does this person look like Macho Man Randy Savage?
Yeah.
What are we trying to say? But then when I gathered it and put two and two together, I'm like, oh, this is what we're actually doing.
Yeah.
We're, like, the character is not a trans person at all. Mm-hmm. It's actually just a male being a fucking dickhead.
Yeah.
And that,
which is par for the course.
And that character gets defeated in the end.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's actually kind of this like just stupid tale, a classic tale of like good versus evil.
Right.
And the good actually wins. And the evil is like, no, you're being a fucking asshole. Yeah. Fuck you. You're out of here.
Get out of here, yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I haven't read a lot about how trans folks feel about that episode. So mm-hmm. I hesitate to add to the conversation because I don't want to get it wrong. Because I don't have that experience. But at the same time, I think when you pull back and sort of look at things from like a 20,000-foot view, it's like, okay, are you punching up or are you punching down? And at the end of the day, to me, that's what matters. But that's me. you know?
Yep.
Like, I'm not trans, so I don't know.
Exactly.
But at the same time, it's like, well, you know, like I've heard people make like I'm fat. I've heard people make fat jokes that have been like kind of fucked up. I've heard people make fat jokes that I think are funny. So it's like, it's just so subjective.
Yes.
And that's art, baby. You know, it's
Yep.
art. That's
Yep.
all it is. It's subjective, and it's really hard to say this is this thing and this is this other thing, because it's all based on our values as a society, and those values are temporal. You know, they're going to change. Those values are going to be different in 15 years. So it's just very, very hard to draw a strong line in the sand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm so interested about, you know, having that conversation about comedy in general.
Yeah.
Because again, there's some stand-up specials because I've just been on like a stand-up kick for like last like couple months. Because
Yeah.
I love comedy.
Yeah.
Like I love stand-up. I love sketch guy. I love improv. Like it has always been a very close thing to me, even just growing up as a child. Like comedy was like, even as a young kid, would be so attached and enamored to stand-up comedy on TV.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is my thing.
Yeah, this rules.
So now seeing a lot of these changes take place and seeing a lot more of these debates pop up and all that sort of stuff, like, I'm like, okay, like, I kind of just want to like listen and gather a lot of perspectives on this of like, yeah, where do we think the line is? What does make sense? What doesn't make sense? But I think, again, going back to kind of what you said earlier, like, I think the easiest way to put it is like, well, everybody's bar is different. And you can't judge your bar or compare it to somebody else's because their experience with what that joke might be talking about might be different than yours.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay,
Yeah.
what offends me might not offend you. And you know what? I guess that's okay.
We just disagree.
Yes. We
And
just
that's
disagree.
okay.
Yes.
That's normal.
So before we continue down this rabbit hole, I would love to dive into like, where does comedy even pop up for you? Like, when do you get enamored by the idea of stand-up comedy or whatever? Like, were you a kid and stand-up pops on the TV and you're like, holy shit, this is amazing? Like, or is it later as an adult? Like,
Well-
where does the passion for comedy come from?
I will tell you that before the age of 10, and I can't, before the age of 8, and I can't pinpoint exactly when it was, but this was before we moved out of my parents' first house. So it was at least, like, I was at least before the age of 8. I was watching In Living Color on my parents' TV secretly. Because if they had known that I was watching it, they would not have let me watch it because it was like a very adult show. Like, I have a distinct memory of watching a Rodney King sketch on In Living Color, and I was fucking 6. You know what I mean? So I was like I don't want to say ahead of my time, but it was like, it just, and like immediately, the minute I saw it, I knew that this was it. And then as time went on, I became more invested and more interested in more things. So, you know, I sort of became really educated, kind of young, because I was very invested, right? So I was watching a lot of things. I was reading a lot of things. You know, when I was 12, my parents were watching the national championship football game, and I was reading Live from New York, which is like a history of Saturday Night Live, which is like 800 pages long. I was fucking 12. You know what I mean? Like, it just always made sense to me. And I have this laugh, like, I don't know if you've like really took it in, but it is like really obnoxious. It's loud. It's almost as if it was gifted to me on purpose, because when I'm at a show where there's live comedy happening, if I'm laughing, it gives other people permission to laugh, and I know that because people have told me that. So it's like, it's almost like all of the pieces fell right into place, right where they were supposed to be, but that's really esoteric. I don't know if that's a good answer to your question.
No, it absolutely is. It absolutely is. Like, so when did you make up your mind that you were like, whenever I can, I'm going to pursue this comedy thing?
I don't know. Well, when I was in middle school, one of my best friends and I would write sketches together, but they were mostly like plagiarizing SNL sketches, so that barely counts. But then when I was in college, there was like, I was studying abroad in England. I just rolled my eyes. I was studying abroad in England, and there was like a talent show night happening, and I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna go do comedy. And so I did, and I, of course, was terrible. I was awful. I was in England, so of course, like, my style of humor is like not translating at all to this crowd who's like, why are you talking into this microphone? So it was bad. But I was like, at least if I'm bad, nobody will remember, because I probably won't know these people in 10 years, which is true. And so then probably I got really serious about it in like 2012 after a really bad breakup. But I started probably in like 2010, 2009.
And so that kind of like talent open mic night, like that was your first attempt
ever
at like going, okay.
Yeah.
So how do you even get started? You said in like 2012 was when you were like, this is my real like go. What is that like? You know, because I'm asking from a place of fascination with this, because stand-up in particular, even though I really, really, really love the idea of doing improv, stand-up has been a thing that's always been in the back of my mind that I'm like, man, I love it so much. That'd be so fun to do, but it sounds more terrifying than anything else I've ever been a part of.
Yeah.
What's your process? Like, what did you do to get started? Is it just like, I started writing sets, going to open mics, and boom?
That is it, yes.
Okay, yeah.
Being a comedian is writing jokes, going to open mics, and then crossing your fingers that you get booked on shows. That's what it is. It's like just writing, practicing, getting booked. Writing, practicing, getting booked. There's nothing like lightning in a bottle as far as comedy goes. It's just like you kind of have to do it. And the hardest part is, for me, was always showing up in places where I didn't feel like I belonged. And that's why I do the things that I do with BabeRoar now, because I didn't feel like I belonged. And so to be able to like bring a person in and be like, you are fucking funny and you belong here, is like the greatest thing that I could possibly give someone, in my opinion, because it would have been really powerful for me. I was just constantly, when I was right out of college, I was like interning for Wild Goose Creative.
Nice.
And it was really cool. They like made up a whole like comedy intern position for me, which was like not a thing. And it was a mess, and that's okay. We were both sort of learning from each other. I loved it. I still love Wild Goose to this day. Like, I just finished up doing a run of shows there. I love Wild Goose. I would never speak badly of them, but it was just kind of like a chaotic experience, you know what I mean? And I didn't have like a real guiding light, and all I wanted was someone to just like scoop me up and be like, here, I'm gonna help you. I will guide you. And there just wasn't that person, because like I said, stand-up is like very much so an individual sport. So it was just, I don't know, it was really hard, but I can't remember what you asked me. Oh, how'd I get started?
Yeah. It was just kind of that process.
And then I started doing mics in like 2012 after a bad breakup, and I wrote, one of my first jokes was like, what was it? It was something about pizza. It was like, I don't think the pizza needs the extra salt from my tears. Like, that was the punchline. And like, looking back, I'm like, wow, good joke, Christine. But that was like my first joke. You know what I mean?
Of course,
like, we
yeah.
all suck at the beginning.
Oh, absolutely.
So yeah, I don't know. It's been really fun, and I really love it. And sort of jokes just kind of come to me. I don't really have a writing process, really.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So what? Like, we talked a little bit about this earlier, but having kind of just recently went through almost kind of the change of perspective, and you said, removing yourself a little bit from the scene, and probably doing that to re-strategize and refocus on, like, again, what is more important to you?
Yeah.
What do you want to do, and how do you want to approach it? Looking forward, other than a podcast that I really hope you do, what do you, like, what are next phases? Is it like, this is how I kind of want to approach stand-up going forward, or I want to do even more of BabeRoar shows, or I want to expand into this outside of just promoting show? Like, what, like, looking ahead, like, what are, like, some of the goals and paths that you're like, these are things that I want to start getting into or grow more with?
Yeah, I would like to continue. I'm doing an open mic, a booked open mic monthly at $2 Radio. It's on the last Tuesday of every month, and it's a small open mic, and people have to sign up, like, weeks or days beforehand. They can't just show up and go up, which is on purpose because open mics are chaos. Also, I was at an open mic not too long ago at Fours, and a fucking fist fight broke out.
Really?
Yes. So it got kind of scary.
Like, just in the crowd, or was it
No,
like comedian?
it was comedians. It was two comedians.
Oh.
And it got kind of scary. And, from my perspective, I'm like, I have been mentally traumatized by this fucking community for so long. And now there's this like physical threat piece. And I'm not going to lie to you. It did like jar me a little bit. And after that, I was like, I can't be investing in this community anymore. It's taking more out of me than I can possibly get back. And while I love lots of the people, there is also this element of like danger, of physical danger, of emotional danger that I have to separate myself from right now because I'm just in a different place. So I am focusing a lot of energy on my TikTok. So what I do on TikTok is like more so content based around comedy. So I'm telling jokes on TikTok. I'm also doing some like comedy theory stuff on TikTok. So that's really fun. That's really lighting me up right now. I'm really excited about it. I really like it. I'm investing energy into it and trying to grow my account. On the other hand, I'm sort of keeping this like open mic thing going so that I can still stay connected to the scene in the way that I think is most important for me, which is to connect with newer comedians, to get them in, to give them some sort of welcoming, and then like help them sort of go, like here's some help and now go fly, be free. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm doing both of those things. So it's almost like a local and global focus for me right now, which feels like the right balance. I feel like, okay, I would love to be like an Elise Myers type situation where I'm a web developer. She was a web developer from the Midwest. That could be me. You know what I mean? Like, I want to show my light to the most people that I possibly can. And that's what I care about right now. What I care about is impacting the way people feel positively. And I think that I can do that in a way that makes me feel fulfilled by doing both of these things.
I'm going to ask you to toss your advice cap on for a second. So if there is somebody who's listening to this who is like, I've been wanting to try comedy out, or I've subtly given it a shot. Like, I don't know what direction. I don't know what I need to do. Like, what is it? What are you telling that person? Like, what's even like a base level handful of advice? You're like, this is kind of what you need to think about.
Yeah, I get that question kind of regularly through my Instagram. So because my Instagram is more so focused on like advice for comedians or like getting started as a comedian. Like I do like infographic type things where I'm just like, here's what you do to get media coverage on your piece or whatever. So on my Instagram, I get that kind of regularly. And what I say is, first, write jokes. You need to write some jokes. If it's 3 minutes, if it's 5 minutes, that's fine, but you need jokes. 1. 2, find an open mic in your area. I'm sorry. It's going to be terrible, but you're going to get better. And, you need it. You have to do it. You have to get your ass beat in order to, like, get the good stuff. So you have to do it. And if you don't have an open mic in your area, here are X, Y, and Z, like, digital open mics that you can go to. So that's number 2. Go practice. Number 3, make connections. Try to get on people's shows. And often, people say that when you're good, when you're funny, you'll get booked. And that's like kind of true. But you do have to make connections with people. I mean, it's not easy. But when I first started, I didn't have an easy time making connections. But I did make a few connections with people who I still am very connected to. So, yeah, it's like a little bit of networking, a lot of practice, and like some luck. But I think if you put a lot of energy into your writing into your performance, that's what matters most. But also be on TikTok.
I mean, yes.
I think comedians should be on TikTok,
I
which
honestly
like
think that makes a lot of sense.
that's fine.
I really do. Even I'm sitting here as somebody who doesn't actively use TikTok, and
Yeah.
like I said, I haven't found what I want to use it for yet. But I do think that makes so much sense to do.
Yeah.
Like it really does, because then you also have total control over like what. I mean, not that you don't have total control over like how you say a joke on stage or something like that, but it's like you have total control of like the content creation aspect.
Definitely.
Of it, of like, hey, I can put this out in whatever realm that I want.
I can do whatever I want.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just gonna say something else, but I don't remember. Anyway.
Well, I have a left field question for you.
Okay.
If you were to go back at any part in your journey, let's say you get to time travel and you get to go back and talk to a past version of yourself, where are you going and what are you telling that version of yourself?
Well, that's a really good question. I think where I'm going. Ooh, a few things just popped up in my mind. One of them is the first time I got paid for doing comedy, which felt amazing. And I don't know why that came to my mind. Maybe it's that I would go back and tell that version of myself, like, this is not success. Being given $20 after you do a set isn't what success looks like for you, Christine. It looks totally different. And you're going to find it, but you're going to get your ass beat first. And then you're going to be happy. So buckle up. You're going to be okay. But you're going to have to learn so many things. And it's going to hurt so bad. And there's going to be some fun stuff along the way. And there are going to be people who help you, and that's going to be really beautiful. And you are going to create community in a way that is really meaningful to you. But you have a different path, and you need to accept that. You need to accept that there's shitty things that are going to happen along the way. And not take it personally, because that's just life.
Another random question for you. What's your favorite stand-up like set or experience that you've ever been a part of, and what's your least favorite?
Oh boy. Okay. There's a concept called a peak experience. Have you ever heard of this?
I don't think I have.
Okay, so peak experiences are this kind of, I don't know, it's almost like a Buddhist, like Eastern idea, where in this moment in time, everything aligns, and all of the stars are aligned perfectly so that you cannot fail in this moment, right? So a lot of times, someone's art or someone's sport or something, like whatever you do in podcasting or in production or whatever it is, there are distinct moments where you can look and say, I could not fail in that moment. And one of my peak experiences is when I was doing a set at the Shrunken Head on a Wonder Dog show, and I saw a dog in the lobby area of Shrunken Head, and it looked like Wishbone. So I talked to the owner. I was like, hey, just so you know, I kind of want to tell a joke about your dog. Is that okay? And he was like, yeah, that's fine. So I get on stage, and I'm like, guys, this is the first thing I say. I'm like, guys, be cool. Be fucking cool. Wishbone from the show Wishbone is in the building right now. And the guy came out and brought the dog and lifted it up like Simba. It was so funny. The crowd lost their minds, because it's all these millennials who grew up on Wishbone, and they're like, well, fuck yeah, Wishbone! And it was, I'm not kidding, in that moment, I couldn't fail. I had a great set. The crowd loved me. It was a peak experience. It was beautiful. That was absolutely my favorite set. My least favorite set was I don't know. I have like a really bad bomb story where like this sorority hired me to do a show for like 700 sorority girls and their Republican dads. And
Perfect audience.
Yeah, it did not go well. Somebody came up to me afterward and was like, you should be ashamed of yourself. Those girls deserve
What?
better. And it was in the Ohio State House. It was like this whole thing. The first joke that I told when I went on stage, I was like, okay, so it was like all these sorority girls dressed in red because it's their like yearly red party for that they like raise awareness for women's heart disease, I think, which is like the number 2 killer of women or something. And the first thing that I said when I went on stage was, wow, everyone looks so beautiful tonight. The last time I saw this much red was in my bathroom trash can. And people were like, what the fuck? Like, it was like, you could hear a pin drop. It's just like, they hated me.
How?
They hated me. And I understand, you know, they were like hoping for something clean or funny bone shit or whatever. And I was like, that's just not what you're going to get. But somebody hired me.
Yeah.
Like I was on Gig Salad and I had like videos of myself doing all kinds of dirty jokes like that. And then they tried not to pay me. And I was like, well, it's your responsibility
really?
too, bitch.
Wow.
And so I did actually end up getting paid, which was great.
So, but they tried to like commit to like, no, we would never.
Yeah, they did.
How
They did.
could you?
It was rough. It was rough.
So.
It was funny. It's a funny story, though.
Of course.
I'm not,
yes,
you know,
yes.
I
Those
can't.
worst stories are, that's even,
Yeah.
that's why I asked that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm like, I
Yeah.
know, you know, like, yeah, you could be like, well, let me tell you the worst thing ever. But
Yeah.
it's like, oh, this fucking stupid thing happened. Isn't that so funny now?
Yeah.
Like, that is just wild to me that like, because now I'm like wondering, I'm like, what jokes did they want?
Yeah. They just wanted, like, bullshit, like, I don't know, probably racist shit, I would imagine.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Homophobic shit, I bet would have gone over great in there.
That's,
You know,
yeah,
just
that
like
makes sense.
offensive shit, probably they
The
would have
stuff
loved.
that we were talking about, the line.
Yeah,
earlier, of
they
like,
have
yeah,
a
no,
line.
that's probably
Yeah.
not where we should go.
Yeah,
like,
not great.
That's not the fun form of comedy.
Yeah.
So, well, now we know what audience that serves. Now we know where that audience is. That's
Yeah.
great. Christina, I have one final question for you.
Okay.
Unless we're missing some major piece of the story that you're
No.
like, dude,
No.
let me tell you this.
No, we hit it. We hit all the hot spots.
No more cryptic stories
No.
to
No.
dive into.
No.
So I end every episode of this with the exact same question.
Okay.
So right now I want you to pretend like everybody in the world, everywhere, is listening to you talk.
Okay, everyone.
Everyone.
Hi.
Throw logic and all that sort of stuff out of the window. Everybody can
Hi.
hear you. They can understand you.
Okay.
So you've got a live mic connected to everybody around the world.
Every person.
Everywhere.
Everyone.
And you get to share something with everybody.
Uh-huh.
What is it that you would want them to hear?
Oh my fuck. Okay.
Hey guys, so don't panic, but Wishbone?
Good callback. Very good. Well done. The thing that's coming to mind is so simple and like cliche, but laugh more, be more compassionate, and I don't know. Make more time to pet your dog on purpose. That's something I'm trying to remind myself about every single day, which is really simple, but really important. It makes me happy.
I like that.
Yeah. Also, no, this is a big one. Find your light and what turns it on, and then follow it until your last day on Earth.
You know what's funny? Is I was waiting for something like that.
No!
Because that has been like a constant thread.
Yeah.
Every story, every like little rabbit hole we've dived down.
Yeah.
You've continuously brought it back to like, nah, but what lit me up in that
Yeah.
moment? What lights you up in that moment?
Yeah.
That's honestly what
That's what you wanted.
That's what I was
I
seeing.
love
was
that.
like,
I love that I gave it to you.
you did. It was perfect. The stars aligned and we got it.
Peak experience.
So, we've talked a lot about how you're on TikTok, what you're doing on Instagram, what BabeRoar is doing, all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Now it's time for the plugs and promotions before we tell everybody goodbye.
Okay.
if you want people to find you around the internet, anywhere to check out all the things you're doing, where can they find you?
At BabeRoar, BabeRoar, on Instagram and TikTok. Follow me at both.
Perfect.
That's where.
There it is. Christine, I have said it already, but I'll say it again. I cannot thank you enough for being down to do that. Dude, this was a fun conversation.
Nice.
Like, this
We crushed
was
it.
a blast.
I had a blast too. Thank you.
Good. I need to hear that because every time I do one of these, I'm always like, all right, I had a lot of fun. But did the other person, like, they're just like, I just wasted 2 fucking hours doing this shit? Like, yeah, you got a podcast. I got less of my life, buddy. Like, thanks a lot. Christine, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
We did it.
You're an angel.
We did it.
I have to pee so
Dude,
bad.
I have had to pee since probably... Okay, so be sure to go check out all that Christine does online or offline, of course. But you can keep up with all of those things by following her at BabeRoar. Go join in on all the fun that she's having over on TikTok. But for real, a major thank you goes out to her for being on the show and sharing her story. I not only hope that she goes on to make that podcast that she was talking about, but I hope that I get to work with her on some possibly fun projects that I'm trying to do in the near future, because your boy is finally trying to get back into the comedy world and have some fun with some new ideas. So, you know what? Hopefully we get to reconnect in the future and make some more fun stuff within that realm. But those are cryptic teases for future projects that I'll hopefully be doing. But right now, I would love your continued support for this show. So you can do so by simply following us on social at WYDH Pod. More importantly, though, please hit the follow or subscribe buttons wherever you're listening to this at. It would be very, very cool if you tossed up a rating and a review for the show as well. Of course, you can also subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Ross Tyson. Yes, Tyson is spelled Theisen. That is where you can find every episode of this podcast in video form. So do all the things, feed the algorithm, tell somebody about it, whatever you can do to help spread the word of this show and get more of these stories heard in whatever form you're doing it in. It helps a whole lot more than you may know. So one last reminder before I say goodbye to check out this week's sponsors, Makers Social, the DIY craft bar located right here in the Franklinton Arts District. You can visit makerscolumbus.com and enter WYDH in the notes of your checkout for $10 off your reservation. And of course, also PromoWest Productions and all the shows that they've got coming through town here in Columbus. For more info on all of that, you can visit promowestlive.com. But that is it. That's another episode in the books. So support if you can, support if you want, but even if you don't, thank you so very much for listening. If you're on YouTube, thank you very much for looking, and I hope you stick around for more because, as always, I'll be back next episode with a brand new guest that you may or may not know of, with a brand new story that you for sure never heard.